I think it's so important to talk about actually our loss and how we feel. I think being bereaved or experiencing grief can be very lonely. Actually, people often talk about being, feeling alone in it and feeling quite isolated in their grief. And people often say, is what I'm feeling normal? Is it common? Am I coping? Am I okay? Am I doing this right sometimes as well? And I think it's so important to share your experiences and talk openly about it, to know that, to understand what is common, what to expect from grief, and actually that you might be coping okay. Yes, of course you'll experience sadness and upset and sometimes anger and guilt, but actually so do a lot of other people. And talking openly with others is I think, very validating and very powerful. And actually just knowing that you're not alone is incredibly helpful for people. Everyone would grieve very differently, and we would grieve differently depending on who has died, how close we were to them, what our relationship was to them, and also how they died, whether it's an expected death or not. And so all those factors will influence how we grieve. But you would expect normally to feel disbelief at the beginning, numbness, shock, a sense of not quite believing it's happened. You would often experience, understandably, sadness. Some people experience anger. A lot of people often talk about guilt as well. So those are very common experiences, and they can last such a long time and changes over time as well, actually. So I will work with people, shortly after a death, but also years later, actually, where they're still experiencing a grief. So we've had a bereavement service here for a long time, and we work with adults and children and families. And so we have an adult service open to anyone who's experienced a bereavement. So it doesn't matter what that bereavement is from or whether you've had any previous contact with the hospice. We would work with anyone who's had a bereavement, so it's an open access service. We also work with children from any age, so the service is a lifespan service from children through to adults. We will work with people prior to a bereavement if there's an expected bereavement from a health condition such as cancer or heart failure. So we will work with children and adults if you're expected to be bereaved. And yeah, the service is open to anyone, children and adults and families. So we also have therapists here who will work with the family unit as well, which I think can be really helpful.